Aloha, everyone, and welcome to the Empowered Hour. I am really excited today. I have been wanting this group of people to come on for a very long time, and with lots and lots of pleading. They they obliged. No, I'm just joking. So I'm excited to have a group of the Impact team here today, and we're just going to go around and have everybody share their name, their title, how long they've been doing this work, and anything notable else they want to share. Let's start out with Jennifer. Jennifer, aloha.
Aloha, I'm Jennifer Bunting. I am a senior instructor and an instructor trainer with Impact Personal Safety of Southern California. I have been doing this work for over 20 years. I got involved because I had a little history of violence. I was mugged twice and realized that I didn't have a plan. And so I needed to figure out what I should do and if I had done the right thing, and trusting my intuition in certain situations. And when I found Impact, it just changed everything. So I'm really, really happy to be doing this work, and I am happy to be here.
Thank you. Excited to have you here. Dani, can you share?
Hello, everybody.
There we go.
Can't work mute today, apparently. I am a lead instructor with Impact Personal Safety of Southern California, and I've been with the company for about 10 years is when I first started volunteering. I took my first class when I was 6 years old with my brother, and I really learned how to set boundaries with myself and with other people. And it really helped me navigate elementary and middle school. And then when I got into high school, I realized my situations had changed a little bit. So I took my basics class as a 14-year-old and fell in love with the program all over again and started volunteering. And as soon as I finished college, I began my training to be a lead instructor. And now I'm entering my 4th year of being a lead instructor. And it's my favorite thing that I do. I also help run tech for all of our online Zoom classes, as well as run their social media.
That's awesome. Dani, thank you for being here. And Nick.
Aloha, Tasha. My name is Nicole, or Nick, as my friends call me, and I'm a lead instructor with Impact Personal Safety. I have been with Impact for about 8 years now, coming up very close to 10 years, which, if you can believe that. I started as an assistant. I took the class as part of other training, and I fell in love with it, much as the other 2 beautiful women who spoke before me. And I just knew I had to get involved in being an instructor. And so I started instructing, and I teach at the high schools, I teach kids, I teach the adult classes, public and private. And I just couldn't be more proud and grateful to be a part of an organization that changes the world in this way.
Awesome, Nick, thank you so much. And what is Impact? I think that a lot of people, they hear it, they see pictures, and they get kind of an idea. But I just wanted to hear from one of you, or multiple people, whoever would like to share, if you have something that you'd like to add on. What is Impact? When was it founded? How long has it been going? Just a little overview for me.
Impact Personal Safety is adrenaline-based training for all genders that teaches by procedural memory, muscle memory. We layer the adrenaline and teach you not just physical techniques, but verbal strategies and talking your way out of a situation, both with strangers and familiars. And so that is one of the bigger parts of what we do, is the boundary setting and the communication part of it. Do either of you have anything to add to that?
Yes. So something that Impact helped me with, and I realized that we give a lot of this information to our students, is that the way we teach adrenaline training and how we respond to adrenaline in our system helps us in other aspects rather than just potential violence or having to set boundaries with strangers or friends. I was diagnosed with an anxiety disorder when I was in college, and Impact really helped learn to manage that in the response that I'm so prone to. So rather than going into that, oh my God, what I'm so overwhelmed feeling, I go, what's the first step? And so it's helped me. It helps in all, well, I won't say all aspects of life, but it helps in so many aspects of your life. So I think it's the life-changing experience to have.
I think what really sets Impact apart is our verbal strategies. You know, there's a lot of self-defense companies out there, and there's a lot of focus on physical, which of course physical is very important, because when you learn how to use your body to defend yourself, it changes how you walk through the world. But most of what we experience is not physical. And I know when I took my first class, it was the verbal. It was learning how to talk my way out of a situation. It was figuring out what to say, how to handle the adrenaline when someone is calling me names or yelling at me, or, you know, triggering my intuition. And I feel like that's the greatest gift that we can give to students, is how to deal with those types of situations and help them find their voice, because we all have one. And I think that's so important.
To answer the second part of your question, was Impact Personal Safety in Southern California was established in 1984. So over 35 years.
Wow. Doing the math on how old I was an infant. I was a baby. But so it's been around for a very long time. I'm sure that it has evolved over time. When it comes to this work, I'm just curious, you know, what are the target audiences that you typically work with?
We work with everyone. We are designed to teach all body types, if there's any disabilities. We teach at a lot of the high schools. We teach mixed classes, co-ed classes. We teach all genders. I think across the board, we have basics classes, and then we have more advanced classes that offer different problem solving, whether there's a weapon involved, or perhaps in an elevator, a confined space, things like that.
Awesome. Now, I know that, you know, especially as the world is changing and there are so many different groups and organizations and actually different groups and different cultures out there. How do you cater to those? I see lots of these different event updates that you send out, and I'm always looking at those, and just very curious, because I know that it is very important to address issues that are more standard for BIPOC communities, or to address issues when it comes to LGBTQIA communities. And not all of those are always addressed in self-defense classes. So how does Impact cater to those?
I think we cater to those because we have a staff that is quite diverse. So, you know, myself and Dani, and we have other instructors who are also from the BIPOC community. We have members of the LGBTQIA community in our staff. And because we have instructors who can identify with those communities, that it becomes an environment where we can relate to the struggles, we can relate to what is on their mind, the fears, the concerns in those communities, and address them. And a lot of self-defense is, a lot of what we teach are basic concepts that can apply across the board, but then we also tailor the content for the context of what the student needs. And we have sections in class where the student actually gets to pick what type of scenario they want to be in, so that they can decide what they want to practice, and they can speak with us before or after to make sure that we can address their specific needs. And if there is a community that wants to work with us that we haven't worked with before, then, you know, we consult with other members of that community, we do our research, we find out what we need to do in order to properly serve and respect that community.
That was a very thorough answer. Thank you. Also with that, you know, I think that so many times when we have these, I mean, for me, I've taken ESD through ESD Global, but I've also studied an array of like Japanese martial arts, Chinese martial arts. I think that because I have done multiple styles, it's opened me up to the opportunity to want to learn from all of these different groups and styles and organizations. And I've seen a lot of strength in organizations that partner with other organizations to deliver this work. And I just wanted to hear from you, even though I already know the answer, but I think that it's good to know, how do you partner with other self-defense organizations so that your audience can reach an even broader audience, and other audiences can actually be introduced to you?
Dani, you're up. Jennifer and I already answered a bunch of questions, so go.
So we do partner with lots of different organizations. One of them is the one that Nicole runs. I was so surprised that she didn't answer this question, which is Girls Fight Back. We also have partnered with ESD Global, and we help run a lot of the worldwide ESD level 1 trainings, so we can bring our slightly different methodology to lots of different amazing self-defense instructors, so they can see maybe an alternative perspective. And it shows that no matter where you are in the world, impact training works, especially those verbal strategies. Our stances are in the universal language of, I don't want any trouble, please stop where you are. And so the organizations we partner with help bring out how incredible we are to a global audience.
Awesome. So another question that I have, and it can get a little bit personal, or we'll have it be broad. I like hearing success stories. So it can be something that has to do with you, where it was a success story where you took a class and you had an aha moment and something in your current life happened and you used impact. Or if you're not feeling comfortable, you're feeling like, oh my gosh, she put me on the spot. You can utilize this opportunity to share an example of a student where they contacted you after using impact, and it was just really impactful to you.
So I have a not recent story, but relatively recent in terms of my lifespan. While I was in college, before I started becoming an instructor, I'd only been really assisting while I was home on breaks, because I went to school in Pennsylvania, and I was in a sorority, and I just got back from a night of partying. I was tired, and I walk into the sorority house, and there's this guy, and I'm friends with him, and he's just trashing the place and throwing food all over the place. And he's just like, I'm drunk, I can do whatever I want. I'm like, hey, you know what? Why don't you sit down? I'm going to put on some different shoes and I'm going to walk you to your fraternity house, because it was right next door. But I just really feel like it's snowing outside, want to make sure he gets out safely. So I go to my room, because it's the first door off of the main room. And I get into my door, put on my boots, turn around, and he's behind me. And he tries to lift me up and put me in my bed, saying, I know you want to do this. Use familiar boundary settings, because I'm like, oh, this is fun. I know how to talk my way out of this situation using boundary skills and letting him know that like nothing's going to happen here. And he eventually just like backed off, realized that, oh, she's saying no. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I'm still going to walk you back to your fraternity house because it's snowing and I don't want you to hurt yourself. I had several friends that year slip and fall and have to go to the ER. So I want to make sure you at least get back to the door. So on the entire walk there, he's like trying to coerce me into sleeping with him. Like, you don't want to sleep with me because you think I'm ugly. You don't want. So he's doing all of these manipulation tactics. And I'm like, my dude, I'm just not going to sleep with you. That's the end of the story. You're not going to guilt me into this. We get to his door. I turn around to walk away and he grabs my arm, pins me up against the brick wall and tries to kiss me. So I knee him and balls and run away. And I was frightened because I was like so adrenalized and shaky, and I immediately ran. And that's one of those things that we teach in classes. Once you have a situation, get to safety, whatever safety means to you, and let somebody know what happened. So I went to my other friend whose door is also right off one of the main entrances and was crying. And she was like, what happened? I'm like, this guy tried to assault me. And she just like helped me process it that night, like at 2 o'clock in the morning. And it was first, I was like upset with this guy, obviously. I thought we were friends, and that's not something friends do. But I realized that even though I hadn't been, religiously practicing impact as I do now, the skills were still there. The verbal skills still helped. The physical skills came out when I needed them to. And I protected myself that night. And it was, I know that I can do it.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your story.
I'll offer sort of the counterpoint to that, which was I was unfortunately mugged twice. One was a little bit more violent than the other. And I just thought that I could intellectualize my fear, that I would just make smarter decisions, that I would just make sure that I didn't put myself in a situation that could be dangerous. But what I found that happened was I was driving across country by myself, again, making real smart decisions on where I was going to stay and when I was going to drive. But I stopped in the broad daylight to get gas, and I needed to use the restroom. And I went into the little mini mart, and when I walked in, I noticed that there was no one else in there, which at the time I didn't understand that that was my intuition pinging and giving me information. But I went to ask the gentleman behind the counter where the restroom was, and he, instead of telling me that the key was behind me, he walks out from behind the counter towards me. And the look that he saw on me and my body language, he actually stopped and said, "I'm not going to hurt you. The key to the bathroom is behind you." And I realized that even though I was thinking I was making smart decisions, in a moment of fear, he could tell how scared I was. And as we know in this industry, people that attack others aren't looking for a fight, they're looking for a victim. And so I would have been another choice by someone because I didn't understand that my body language would betray me. So it frightened me enough to know that I don't want to become more and more limited in my life. I want to be able to live a full life. So I needed to figure out what to do and how to handle that situation. So when I found impact, it just changed everything.
That's awesome. Jennifer, thank you for sharing your story. Nick?
I have a story. So a few years ago, I took a solo trip to Peru. I love to travel solo. I travel solo, camp solo, hike solo. Like if you can do it solo, I've probably done it solo. I love it. And I was in Peru, and I was in Cusco near one of the markets. I forget which one I was near. And I was walking around, and my Airbnb host had already told me that pickpocketing was a really big problem and that even the locals wear money belts. So I was like, okay, if the locals do it, I'm going to do it. I'm going to be, very aware of that. So I'm even more aware of my surroundings because I'm in, a place that I'm not familiar with. And I was walking through this market, and it's one of those ones where there's like a building, there's a sidewalk, and then there's like an awning over the top of the sidewalk, but it's all open. There's like pillars every, like, I don't know, 6 feet, 7 feet, so it's outdoor. It's hard for me to describe it. I can picture it in my head. I hope it makes sense. I'm walking on this outdoor sidewalk with these pillars to the side, and I noticed someone following me. I noticed a man would go behind a pillar. We're talking a big pillar. He would go behind it and then wait for me to walk to the next one, and then run up to the next one, and then wait for me to walk to the next one, and then run up to the next one. And I noticed it after like the second or third time. And at first my intuition was sparked, but I tried to talk myself out of it. I said, no, it can't be happening. I'm just being ridiculous. I'm sure he means nothing. Maybe he's just curious about me. Maybe he's just walking, and I'm attributing, his actions to something else. And then I just said, you know what? No, this doesn't feel right. So I walked to the next pillar, and I turned around and stopped, and I turned around to face where I knew he was going to come out of the side of the pillar. I wasn't even in ready stance. I was just in awareness stance, but I turned and faced him, and he stepped from the side of the pillar, and he saw me, and he stopped instantly, just stopped in his tracks like a deer in headlights. And he looked at me, and I looked at him. We didn't say a word. We stared each other down for about 10 seconds. And then he turned around and walked away. If I needed any validation that he was following me, I got it. because if he wasn't following me, he would have just kept walking. Been, what's this weird woman doing standing there just looking at me? But he knew, and I knew, he knew that I knew that he was following me, and that was the end of it. So that was a success story without me even having to use any physical skills.
Yeah, that's amazing. I remember you had shared this with me like on one of our Zoom moments. And I think that it is really important just to listen to your intuition, to follow it. I oftentimes, especially with people who are survivors, if they haven't gone through getting support, the support that they need, there's a lot of second guessing that happens and a lot of questioning of yourself. So one thing that I'm wondering is, what is your hope when people go through your class? What is the feeling that you want them to come out with? The way that they walk in the world, what are you hoping that they get?
I'm hoping that they get, that they actually believe, know, and understand that they are worth fighting for.
And I want them to know that I want them to feel confident that they are making the best decisions for their personal safety and making the choices on their own about what's best for them.
I would agree with both of those things, because I think especially women are often socialized to believe that they don't have power, or that they can't speak up, or that they're going to make the assailant mad enough that he will somehow turn into a violent person. And we want them to have the confidence to trust their instincts, to be able to speak up, and often mitigate a situation prior to it escalating, and it doesn't turn into anything violent. And they've done what they could do, they trusted themselves, and therefore it's success.
Thank you. Oh, hey, we have a surprise guest who's coming on in just a second. Who's it gonna be? Who's it gonna be?
Dawn Hart.
So I planned this. I called Don, I talked to him. He said that he would come right away. Just joking.
Hi, Dawn.
Hi, Don. Thank you for joining us. So we've been talking throughout just about the background of impact, the history of impact, and also sharing a bit of information about our own instruction and like win stories, aha stories from different people. Don, if you could just share a little bit about who you are, the work that you've done with Impact, how many years you've been with Impact, that'll start us off. And then I might have more questions for you.
Hello, my name is Don. Been instructor with Impact for 25 years. And I'm primarily a padded instructor. Once in a while, they let me do lead instructing, but not very much.
Awesome, Don. Thank you for joining us today. What part of the world are you in?
I'm in a Carl's Jr. parking lot. No, I'm in Los Angeles, in a Carl's Jr. parking lot.
It's such a good place to be. Are you
So-
safe, Don? Have you looked at all of your surroundings?
I don't have ketchup for my fries, but besides that, I'm safe.
Okay, this is good.
Sorry, I just got done working.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. Awesome. So another thing that I just wanted to bring up, you have all of these trainings all over. I wanted to know, how many different countries have you reached, if you know?
Me?
Oh, just
No, I
everyone.
don't know. I'm not sure of the answer to that. That might be a Lisa Gata question. But I know that Dawn and I traveled to Costa Rica a few years ago and did one of the level ones at ESD, which is what Dani mentioned. And that was quite successful. We not only did that class for the people that were actually enrolled in the level one, but then afterwards we did a locals class, and we had 29 women, mothers and daughters and all sorts of women that took the class, and it was very successful and very exciting. And we did it through a translator, and it was still equally as dynamic as a class that we would put on here in Southern California.
That is exciting. I just wanted to see, if you have any events that are coming up that you wanted to share about with the audience.
Well, it's exciting because after COVID, we're just now getting involved in our in-person classes. So we had, Dani just graduated one of those classes just this past Sunday, and we have quite a few coming up that people are eager to get back into a live class with other people. Dani, you could probably talk a little bit more about how that went.
Yes, so we just I just taught our first in-person public class. It was an all genders basics, so I had a number of students. A lot of them were on their way to their first year of college, and that's always, it's my favorite demographic to teach because they're like going off on their own. They need to know how to set boundaries for themselves, and it went so well. There was such an amazing of students. They were so supportive of everybody in class, and they made everybody welcome. And it's also really easy to teach people who are so excited to be there. We have another upcoming class in August, I believe, it's a women's basics, and we're scheduling classes through the end of the year, both in person and online, because we realized we reached so many people globally with our online class. So we have special days for how to set boundaries with strangers, as well as how to set familiar boundaries going into the holiday season. Yay.
I love that. Almost like the "we can do it" pose. Anyway, so one of the things that was coming up is that there are people out there who tend to resist taking self-defense classes. There's also people out there who have a martial arts background who are like, I'm already teaching self-defense technically. Why do I need to incorporate this into the work that I'm doing? So I was just wondering if any of you could speak to that. Dawn, I know you have a martial arts background, but I also know you're about to take a drink of your really delicious whatever liquid. So if there's anyone who wanted to just share, that would be great.
I think one of the most important things that I see as a wonderful difference in how we teach and what we teach is that we address so many of realistic situations that women find themselves in, especially that might involve sexual assault. So knowing that if you are to potentially be sexually assaulted, you're going to end up on the ground. And so teaching and understanding how to fight from the ground is very, very integral in understanding that you have a lot of options. And just because you might end up on the ground, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're in a vulnerable situation. And women physically are stronger in their hips and their legs. So by getting on the ground or actually seeing that as a place of power and using your hips and your legs to fight back, often takes away the sort of subconscious fear that women carry with them without realizing it. It might not be a conscious thought or feeling of fear, but I think all women, regardless of who you talk to, would say that having someone sexually assault them is one of their greatest fears. And a lot of women have actually been sexually assaulted, and therefore we can sometimes help them change that script about that they didn't necessarily do anything wrong, but now that they know what they can do, they are much more empowered to believe that they would handle the situation differently.
Thank you for sharing, Jennifer. Anyone else? Dawn, it looks like you've unmuted.
Unmuted, yeah. I had to have Dani tell me that I'm muted. So, um, something that I say in the beginning of class is that I come from a martial art background, and as I went through and I was doing my competitive fighting or tournament fighting, I thought I knew everything about self-defense and martial arts. And it wasn't until I got involved with Impact where I saw it kind of branches off in two different concepts. One is mutual combat. It's a trading of blows. It's an agreed upon match. The other is a predatory attack. And to think that you're teaching one while you're teaching both is not true. One is about predatory attacks. The other is about mutual agreed combat. So I make that delineation. I try to do that without poo-pooing martial arts, because martial arts is important. It's valuable. It has its value. So does self-defense, which is a different avenue. So I think that's important to let people know that just because they did one doesn't mean they know the other.
Don, do you have a success story with speaking to a martial artist and getting them involved in Impact?
Well, I think just about, well, most of our padded instructors, they are the success stories that you're asking about, because they were involved in martial arts and they saw this and said, wow, this is different. This is not what I'm used to. This is something I want to do. And they became involved with Impact because it was, number one, different, and number two, very functional to fulfill the need that needed to be fulfilled, which is protection.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. And just in, oh, Nick, I saw the face. You looked like you were going to say something.
I was, but not if you're ready to move on. If you're ready to move on, I will just skip it.
No, I want to hear what you have to say. I don't want to miss out on this.
I was just going to say that I've taken martial arts at varying times in my life. I'm a very athletic person. I like moving my body. That's kind of like my jam. And I remember I would take classes and then never remember what I was supposed to do, you know? And what is so important about Impact is that we're training people in the adrenaline state. It's procedural memory, and we keep it really simple. It's not 10 steps to do one thing. It's 1 or 2 steps to do one thing. We keep it so simple, and it's not about trying to memorize several different moves for several different types of scenarios, and more of just teaching people simple things. Just, you know, it's not about a fair fight. It's not about looking good when you're doing the move. It's not about having a perfect strike. It's about how can I hurt the other person enough to get out of there. And I feel like that's what really helps kind of separate us from martial arts. Like we're not teaching a discipline for, you know, for in that manner. We're teaching, you know, just down and dirty, simple, that anyone can do and remember, regardless of how much training they've had. And I remember we were at I was speaking with someone who had taken an Impact class before, a man who had martial arts background. And he said after his first class, his first 4-hour class, he said the skills he learned were immediately useful, more useful than his, you know, 10 plus years taking martial arts. He was able to apply within 4 hours of taking a class those things in a way that he didn't feel like he could have done after 10 years of martial arts training. I don't know if I explained that well, but basically he's saying that in 4 hours of training, he was able to do something that, yeah. Anyways, I'm just repeating myself now, but I'm just going to leave it at that.
You're basically saying the Impact just rocks. There you go. That's it. All right. So in closing, I always ask this question just because I think that I get a lot of different answers, and it's always very inspiring for people. What could you tell as a piece of advice to your younger self, just so that they could do life differently, or to a younger person now who might be listening to this?
So
Dani.
my piece of advice for myself, as well as any young person who is hearing this, any person in general who is hearing this, setting boundaries helps create healthy relationships. By letting people know what it is that you're uncomfortable with and what you So boundaries are more than just saying no, it's saying yes to things. So setting boundaries helps foster a comforting environment. And yes, there are sometimes uncomfortable is necessary, especially when you have to educate yourself on something that can be very scary to learn about, such as the statistics evolving around sexual assault and violence within, well, the United States and the world. However, you don't need that in your personal life. You should be around people who challenge you, but don't make you uncomfortable or lesser. So set boundaries, be safe, as well as maintain those healthy, any relationship that you have, any healthy relationship.
Thank you, Dani.
And
Jennifer?
I would just echo just what Dani said, because it's so true. And the more and more you hear yourself setting boundaries and asking for what you want and saying no when you mean no, you start to hear yourself differently, and it's like a snowball. And so the more you do it, the easier it becomes. It can be difficult at times, but overall you understand how that has helped your life, and it empowers you to keep doing it.
Thank you, Jennifer. And Don? Or Nick?
Don, you're muted.
Don, you're muted. Jinx.
How about now? Now? Ah, blah, 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 blah. That's all it looked like. Okay. What I said was the same advice I give the young me, the current me, and the old me is start now. Just start now. Because people come up with all kinds of excuses why they can't do it, or they're not ready for it, or they're not able to do it. Just start now. That's all I got to say about that.
Thank you, Don.
What I would say to my younger self, and the same thing that I would say to any young person listening now or in the future, that your safety is more important than someone else's feelings. Being likable isn't worth your safety or your comfort. And if you need to set a boundary or say no or walk away, if it makes the other person angry or not want to, hang out with you or be your friend or date you or whatever, that's okay, because you are worth it and you shouldn't have to accept being treated less than how you deserve to be treated.
Damn straight. So thank you all of you for coming on. I think it's really amazing to just have this team of people. So there's a lot of opportunity out there. So if you are interested in having impact come to see you, there's definitely a lot of instructors to choose from and availability. Please check out Impact Personal Safety, and then also all of their information from all of the speakers are going to be in the bio. So definitely check those out. And there are links to their website and social media. Thank you so much for everybody coming on.
I'll
Jennifer,
add one last tag. Impact is men and women working together to combat the cycle of violence. That's a very important delineation. It's not women against men, it's men and women working together.
Thank you, Jennifer. Yes. So definitely check out Impact Personal Safety. Check out a chapter near you. There are definitely chapters all over the United States. So thank you again.